A couple of weeks ago, we were joined by Big Ange and Renee Graziano and some of the other women who star in Mob Wives. But tonight, our guests have a very different experience of living with a criminal. Melissa Moore's father was known as the Happy Face Killer. He was a serial killer who brutally murdered at least 8 women. Melissa is the author of the book Shattered Silence. Melissa Moore. Now, Melissa, you grew up with your dad. What is the first thing that you remember that lets you know that things weren't quite right?
When I was about 5 years old, we lived in Yakima, Washington, in a really rural place, and there would be stray animals that would come onto our property, and my father would brutally kill them. And as a little girl, I knew something was wrong. I didn't feel like that was right, but the response that I got from the adults around me was startling because they swept it under the rug. They didn't think, or they acted like it wasn't a big deal. And so that gave me mixed messages that what my dad was doing was either that it was right, but it still didn't feel right. So it made me feel like something was wrong with me. But that was the first thing. The second thing would be his verbal abuse and his odd behavior. He had weird boundaries. And what I mean by weird boundaries is as a teen, when I got older, he would talk about his explicit sex life to me and share details that I wouldn't want to know. And I won't say it on camera right now, some of the things he would say. But I mean, even up until a couple of years ago, he would send me letters, and his stationery was pictures of nude women. And I'm going to cover up, but I'll kind of show you. I'll cover it up, but I mean, it's covered. I mean, it was ridiculous. That's not what a dad sends to his daughter. And that is just one of the examples of what he would do.
Are you ever concerned that this genetics, which I know many people believe this is a psychopathy, we're talking about a psychopath here, that psychopathy is something that is genetically transmitted? Are you worried that you or your children could perhaps be stricken with this?
I used to. I was really scared. I was scared because I look like my dad more than my mom. I have some of the traits that my dad has, some positive ones. For example, like I have a good memory, but not the negative ones. I do have empathy and I care. But I did care even more when I had children because I wondered with my son and with my daughter, would there be anything passed on to them if it skipped like a generation? So I was really nervous until I met with professionals that told me that I was going to be okay, and my kids would be okay, because there hasn't been anything done or proof that another serial killer has given birth or begot another serial killer in the family.
Let's go to Cassidy in Texas. Cassidy?
Hey, Dr. Drew.
Cassidy.
Okay, first off, I am a victim of abuse in 2 different ways. My father was extremely emotionally, physically abusive. He broke my ribs when I was 3. He threw me in a closet with a gun and made me beg for my mother's life. My husband is an alcoholic, emotionally and mentally abusive. And I guess the question that I'm trying to ask is, I have a 3-year-old, and even though me and my dad's relationship is better, I know that he can feel the resentment that I have towards my father.
Cassidy, yeah, I get it. Let me just say that having a parent who is physically abusive is quite different than what we're talking about today. This is not necessarily a psychopath. Psychopath is somebody who kills mercilessly without any regard for the other person, who has a lack of empathy for other people in all areas. As you heard, Melissa's father sending her inappropriate pictures, talking weird stories about his sexuality. When you have a parent that is physically abusive, lo and behold, the biggest one, if you can tolerate, if you don't become an alcoholic yourself because you've been so shattered emotionally, lo and behold, the thing that tends to happen is you tend to be attracted to another male, in your case, because just like your father, who ends up reenacting the same phenomenon all over again. And this is what we call the cycle of abuse. And so, yes, your children are at risk of continuing the cycle of abuse by either being a victim or a victimizer. And so it is something to begin to get professional help with for you and your child immediately. I want to ask you, Melissa, when you first found out your dad was this so-called, was it the Happy Face Killer? I can't get the name straight. Yeah, it's somehow just doesn't something... somehow a happy face doesn't ring true for me. Imagine
it's
that.
Ironic.
Yeah, that's right. What did you think when you first heard that your dad was that guy?
Well, at first, I didn't hear that he was a serial killer. At first, I heard that he was in jail for murder of his fiancee, Julie Winningham. And that alone was shocking. We learned gradually over the months that there was more to this story than just the one murder, which was obviously horrific at the one. But we found out that he was involved with the Tanya Bennett case, which they had already captured the supposed killers. And so that was a big fiasco. There was trials. I mean, it wasn't a short period of time. It's a long going thing. And that was in a way kind of a blessing in disguise, because I don't know how I would have been able to handle it even more if it was just thrown into my lap all at